Well, hi, welcome to the KaiNexus Continuous Improvement Podcast. I'm Mark Graban, Senior Advisor with KaiNexus. We're joined today by Chris Burnham. He is one of the newer members of the team. I've known Chris for a while, and we're going to have a chance to talk with him as we have with other team members. We're going to combine two episodes here. We've done some podcasts on the theme of why did you join KaiNexus, and then we've done some episodes about what do you do here. We're going to do both today with Chris. So, Chris, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm well, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Mark.
Happy to be here on the podcast, and I know you're happy to be at KaiNexus. And you've got a unique background and story and history with KaiNexus before joining as an employee. Do you want to tell that story? And Chris blogged about it also, but we'll link to that. But here we have a chance to hear it directly from him. What was your story?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity to talk, especially when it comes about my career and my relationship with KaiNexus. I've had the benefit of learning, practicing, and teaching continuous improvement for the better part of almost 20 years now. That's a little difficult for me to say, a little gray in the temples, but it's from my first days when I was exposed to it as a frontline operations manager at a contract manufacturing company in Charlotte, and being able to see firsthand, I guess, the transformational power of how just lean as a people operating system works. It wasn't tool based. It was just idea based. It's really how do you celebrate the ideas of folks. And even at that level, at the front line, I felt like my responsibility was to make it to where people could share their ideas. When an idea came in, to make sure that it was routed rapidly to somebody that could take action on it. And in that environment, normally it was my manufacturing engineer who I shared a cubicle with. And then having a bias for action, so the employee sees the work and their suggestion, and they have input, and they've got they see firsthand their idea coming to life in their workspace. And it's addictive once you get used to it. And, once you work in an environment with lean principles at work, you never want to work anywhere else or in an environment without one. And so I really realized the power of continuous improvement is something that it helped people and teams be the best versions of themselves. So the last 3 years of my career, I was focused on leading a global team responsible for an employee-driven continuous improvement program, or bottom-up, as some people would call. And I was fortunate to have support and accountability to the C-suite. He was very interested in what I was doing and why I was doing. And the questions never was about me. It was tell me a story about an improvement that was done in France, or that was done in Cork, Ireland, or that was done in Chicago. And being able to tell him those stories, it's a powerful tool for being able to share continuous improvement as a cultural piggyback. And when I was tasked with that program, I'd been friends with Greg Jacobson since in the team at KaiNexus since 2014. I actually produced a podcast episode with Greg for my podcast and the Lean Leadership Podcast, and we've stayed in close touch throughout the years. I've gone to Greg and Jeff and you for advice on the tactical and strategic pieces of how to run a successful continuous improvement program. So when I was given the opportunity to lead this global team at my last employer, I reached out immediately because I knew this is what the technology piece for this is. And it allowed me the bandwidth to then be focused on the people and the process, and not having to worry about the communication, the reporting, having a bunch of people entering data into Excel spreadsheets and sending it across. I was able to focus on the work and focus on the people. So the company that I worked for went through a merger and acquisition, and as that happens, I found myself with an opportunity to explore some new things. And I picked up the phone, and the first person I called was Jeff, because I know that KaiNexus has relationships with companies that are doing good work and really transformational work. And, we just had a brief conversation. I gave him an update on where I was going and what I was doing. And a few days later, he calls me back and says, have you thought about working here? And really, I hadn't. I know that it was a unique situation for me and for them and for the company as well, because I've used the product in that environment, but then also I've got that 20 years of experience with continuous improvement, Lean, and Six Sigma that just allowed me to see things from a different point of view and be able to really add value to the company and add value to the clients. And I'm at a point in my career where it's important to me that I'm doing good work or work that benefits folks and in society. And the mission of KaiNexus of spreading continuous improvement it's a noble one, and it's one that goes with my life's work.
Yeah. Well, it's great to hear the story of how reaching out to do some networking led to something unexpected and altogether good.
Yeah, absolutely. But I remember the early conversations it was that we had. It was, guys, I'm a fan and I'm going to be a supporter of this no matter what. And I think that spirit of transparency and having a shared vision really it worked out well. And we talked about kind of what would it look like for Chris to work at KaiNexus? What would that work be, and how would we do that? And really, the focus was how do we add value to our clients and helping them understand that delicate balance around continuous improvement, leadership, and then technology. And I've got a differing perspective that I can talk about that, and then also talk in the first person from a voice of the customer experience with KaiNexus. But really helping our clients and our internal team be the best versions of themselves and experience that. If I have to, I know it sounds hokey, but experience that emotional satisfaction that I had as a young operations manager 20 years ago. When you see it, it's like, this is really cool, and it's a team effort. It's not no one gets to pat themselves on the back. There's always someone else patting you on the back. And that's the same kind of camaraderie and culture that I've experienced in my short time at KaiNexus as an employee.
Yeah. And in introducing you, I failed to mention or ask, so I'll just ask, what's your job title here at KaiNexus?
My job title is Senior Lean Strategy Director.
And there's kind of a unique opportunity. Maybe you can talk more about that role. That's a title that didn't exist. You've got the opportunity to kind of define this as you go. I'm sure there's an initial hypothesis about what the role will be. Can you share more about that?
Yeah. So it was a new role. And so I feel like I've got an added responsibility being the first person to sit in that chair to put it in the right direction for future people that would have an opportunity to sit in that chair, but or more likely stand in that space, because we're a pretty dynamic company. We operate at a pretty high level of execution. But with that role, it's really being a credible advisor to our customers about how they're using the product, what problem are they trying to solve with our product, and validating that we've got the right pieces and elements around their use case and the solution that we're applying for them that makes them effective. And then probably one of the biggest things that stood out to me in the interactions that I've been able to have is just helping them understand the need for simplicity. When the product is dynamic and we can do a lot of great and different things, but how do we keep it simple for the person at the front line that has an idea that wants to share? If that's their use case, if it's project management, how do we make sure that the communication, collaboration, and information that you need is in the right place and it's accessible? If it's a tiered huddle strategy or a status at a glance, Status at a glance is status at a glance. You want to be able to look at it, understand it, comprehend it, and then allow the normal, the automatic functions of your brain tell you if you're in a good or a bad place, and if you need to jump into problem solving mode, or if you just need to be in awareness mode. And simplicity is a key element of all of that in the work that we do.
And you're so uniquely positioned with your lean and continuous improvement experience, your experience as a KaiNexus customer, and the roles you've had. You're going to be talking to people who I think are going to appreciate, hey, Chris has been in my shoes in a number of different ways. I think that's going to be really helpful.
Yeah, I think that actually gives me an ability to be an empathic listener. And when I'm having these conversations with people about the challenges that they're facing with their continuous improvement program, I understand it at a frontline level. I understand it at a mid-manager level. I understand it at a global or a system level. And I'm able to I think that's one of the things that I love about this work is that your experiences, I don't like using the word expert. I'm experienced. I've gone through something similar to that. And I see my role as being able to connect the person with that problem with someone who's got the experience to be able to solve their problem or have the solution to get them to that next step. But with CI work, you've never solved a problem. You've solved that version of the problem. And then if you do the Deming cycle or the PDSA cycle or kata, whatever improvement methodology you use, you re-examine it. And if you really focus on it, the next improvement presents itself, and you've got another opportunity to really take things to the next level. I think Stephen Johnson talks about it in his TED Talk. It's the adjacent possible. Solving this problem gets you to the adjacent possible of the next iteration. And
as organizations are iterating, I don't know if it falls in the category of Freudian slip, but you almost said prevent improvement instead of, I think you said present improvements. What types of things in your experience prevent improvement, and how will you in this role and KaiNexus work with people to try to help get rid of some of those barriers to improvement and the barriers to building a culture of improvement?
Yeah, so the problem is multifaceted, and it presents itself in a lot of different ways at different levels. At the front line, the two main reasons that people don't share their ideas is they have a psychological safety. If I share an idea, then I'm going to get more work, or I'm going to be seen as complaining, or my manager is going to give me additional work on top of the work that I already have to do. So there's this safety element or component of not wanting to share because of just preservation. The other thing is futility. I think it was you that I actually heard this from, and I've used it a lot in my my work. Is that employee ideas and suggestion box systems can be places where good ideas go to die. I think that the appropriate credit is to you on that. But futility, in the work that I've done, I can remember countless conversations where I'm having meaningful conversations with frontline employees and say, "Hey, that's a great idea. You should share that." And they say, "Well, I've told somebody that, and they didn't do anything with it, and I don't want to waste my time again." So that's on the front line. I think as you go further up, it presents itself in a couple different ways. Continuous improvement work is not something you can delegate. You have to participate in, and that's one of the elements of a successful CI culture is that it's leader led, and from the C-suite makes it really powerful. And when it's leader led from the C-suite, the leader states, "I am going to be participating in this, and I expect you to be participating in it as well. Let's do this together. I'm not doing it to you. I'm not delegating it to you." And so that's one aspect to it. So if you look at your leadership structure are you delegating your relationships and your improvement work to someone else? And that's not an effective recipe. And then I think the last thing is around technology. I work for a technology company, but I would just, anybody that's listening to this, and obviously I have a favorite, but you have to have some component of how you organize, how you share, how you collaborate, how you communicate. And technology, if we didn't learn anything in 2020, in the last year with the pandemic, it's your technology as a collaborative enabler plays a critical role in the work that you do. And it allows us to shift to a mindset of results are more important than location. But that focus on the results helps from there. But oftentimes, one of the basic problems that I see is that we're allowing the technology to dictate the way that we're trying to solve a problem, rather than let's dictate how we solve the problem and our solution, and then find technology that augments that and increases that, our ability to do that. And that's why that's one of the attractive things to me about KaiNexus, is that we have a lot of different use cases, but the only use case that we're going to work on with you is the one that solves your problem. We don't have a technology that's going and hunting for problems to solve.
Yeah, that's all really well said. And just to go back, give a couple verbal footnotes. When you talk about fear or the lack of psychological safety, I think of Professor Amy Edmondson, and would encourage people to check out her work. A book called The Fearless Organization is really good. And then when it comes to futility, it was actually a professor from UT Austin, Ethan Burris. Did you see him speak at one of the KaiNexus user conferences?
I did at the user conference, yes.
Yeah, or KaiNexicon, as we call it now. And we're going to do that again in person in 2022. But Ethan Burris, and I can put links to this in the notes, he's done that research, and bigger than the fear factor is the futility factor. And you sum that up really well. So we don't want people to have that futility like they get with a suggestion box. The other phrase you used, where good ideas go to die. I mean, I use that a lot. It was one of my clients in West Texas, in the Midland, Odessa area years ago, who in just such a great drawn out drawl kind of way. She said, I'll try it. Good ideas go to die. And for emphasis, the word die must have lasted 10 seconds, or at least.
I could almost hear the eagle scream and then see the idea roll by like a tumbleweed beside a cattle skull right there when you say that.
There are buzzards circling over your suggestion box if you have one. So, Chris,
that's the other thing, is that you see suggestion boxes with a lock on them. Why?
Yeah.
Like, are they gonna? Should you be afraid of them? Are they gonna get out and go improve themselves?
Are they getting stolen?
Why? Yeah.
We are birds birds of a feather. Whether it's eagles or buzzards, no, we're just birds. We're two birds who love continuous improvement. We appreciate the challenges and the futility of suggestion boxes. So, Chris, I'm really glad that you're bringing that experience to KaiNexus as an employee now, and there's going to be a lot of great growth ahead. You mentioned the podcast earlier before we wrap up. Give a plug for the name again, because you've started doing new episodes. So please, we want people to go listen to that.
Lean Leadership Yeah, it's the Lean Leadership Podcast. It is a weekly, usually somewhere around 20 to 40 minute type podcast. I used to think to myself, I want my podcast episodes to fit within the commute that someone has. That's changed now. I really want you to be out exercising and put your AirPod in and listen to some great content about the leaders in this thing that we call continuous improvement, that are the thought leaders that are that have done the work, that have experienced the setbacks, but that have success stories and that are passionate about that. My goal for starting the podcast when I did it 5 years ago or 6 years ago now is the idea of being someone that can connect to someone else in the community and be able to share ideas and to be able to listen, because we all we all experience similar challenges. I think by hearing a diversity of thought and ideas, the best ideas tend to win out, and they tend to help us be successful in what we do. Mark, I wouldn't be true to my podcast roots if I didn't try to put the hat of the host on for a moment. I know we talked about why I joined KaiNexus, but recently you wrote a blog post and a release about you had your 10-year anniversary at KaiNexus. So turning the tables here a little bit, can you share with the listeners and the people viewing of why you joined KaiNexus? And to that end, 10 years later, you're still here. And if you could share with us why.
I will. And they call this in the radio business a tease. I guess it also applies in podcasting in an upcoming episode of the podcast. We are going to do that. We're going to turn the tables and have that discussion. So please stay tuned. If you're listening for the first time and you want to hear my story and some reflections over those 10 years, please do subscribe or follow and check out that episode. So yeah, Chris, you'll turn the tables on me, and look forward to hearing your voice here in the KaiNexus podcast in different ways. More so in different, in the future as you continue your own podcast. So thanks for joining us today. We'll be right back to do that next episode.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for listening. To learn more about KaiNexus, the company, our software, and our team, you can go to www.kainexus.com. That's KAINEXUS.com.